Today's episode is sponsored by Vamble Apartments. So, I'm the kind of person that prefers to be indoors a lot. I would even say I'm an introvert. But recently, I had a slumber party and a sleepover with my friends in a beautiful, amazing shortlet apartment called Vamble Apartments. I had the most amazing time because it felt like my comfort zone. It felt like home. It felt like everything I would love to run back home to. It was so beautiful. The vibe was nice. Everything was perfect. The most friendly staff I've ever come across. It had the most serene, calming, peaceful vibe I had ever experienced outside of my home. Vumble Apartments and Suites is a collection of the finest independent luxury homes in Abuja, Nigeria. Their luxury suites are both impressive and flexible with plush interior design and so much more. It is located in a serene and hospitable environment with 24-hour security system, well-equipped and mannered security guards, 24 hours power supply as well as an uninterrupted internet connection. The apartments are very affordable with rates ranging from 30,000 naira per night for their standard room to 150,000 naira per night for their platinum apartment. And you get a 10% discount when you book Vamble Apartments with the referral code A Cup of Vulnerability 10. Get your 10% discount by clicking any of the links below to redeem your code. Hi guys, welcome back to episode 3 of A Cup of Vulnerability. I'm so excited to be here today. I'm so thankful to all of you that constantly tune in to listen and watch me. I really appreciate you guys, honestly, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. So today we're going to be talking about self-criticism and self-sabotage and how they affect our life. First of all, before I begin, I'd like to throw out a disclaimer. I am not a mental health practitioner. These information are based on my research and personal experience, and my aim is to be relatable while I share, my improvement process. If you are suffering from self-sabotage, I'll advise you to seek help from a therapist or a counselor. Self-criticism is simply how we evaluate ourselves. Simply put, how we evaluate ourselves. And the result of this evaluation, this self-evaluation, always tends to be negative because it is in fact like us judging ourselves harshly. This would of course lead to the negative mental process of self-sabotaging. Self-sabotage is basically to hinder your own progress. And so this becomes a very vicious circle that prevents you from achieving your goals or even simply being, living, or existing. It's so funny how my ignorance used to, allow me to say my self-criticism was due to self-awareness. I really didn't know any better. Just because I was able to point out my flaws, just because you're able to point out your flaws, doesn't mean you have to beat yourself down for them. Before we get into, my own process and how it has affected me, let's talk about ways in which we or people will tend to exhibit self-sabotage. Number one, procrastinating. It seems like a word people throw around every time, and sometimes we make a joke out of. But in reality, it's a very, very, mentally negative effect of self-sabotage. It's one of the things that happens when we self-sabotage. As you know, procrastinating is constantly putting off your goals or plans that we know will bring about like positive outcomes. Procrastinating is a way we self-sabotage. Sometimes we constantly and subconsciously think we're not ready or deserving of the positive outcomes that will bring about taking certain actions. When you put this thing off, put that thing off, you feel like you're not ready to take a step toward a certain goal. Deep down, subconsciously, it's because you feel like you're not deserving of what the outcome of that goal would be, the positive outcome especially. It is in a way we, self-sabotaging our progress. Because think about everything you would have achieved if you didn't procrastinate, if you got up and went to work out the day you said you were going to work out, if you got up and started that thing you had been putting off for so long, think about how far you would have come. And so this is a way we will tend to like self-sabotage. Number two is victimization. Now, victimization is something that lots of people suffer unknowingly. Victimization, first of all, is like always thinking bad things happen to you, and there are these stories you make up in your head to associate whatever might be happening to you to why it might be happening to you. So, in all honesty, the harsh truth, I love you, but the deep bitter pill you have to swallow is that you are victimizing because you're refusing to hold yourself accountable to certain things you have done, or the part you've played, your role in whatever is causing you suffering. Honestly, not allowing yourself to take accountability for these things, your own actions that put you there. I'm not saying that it's completely your fault, but everything leads to something, whatever the case might be. If you think back, how did I contribute? How did I allow this to happen? It's not necessarily blaming yourself. You're actually not blaming yourself. You're just holding yourself accountable to certain actions you took, not necessarily the results, just the actions you took that led you to somewhere. So when you victimize, when you make up stories in your head for yourself um, as an excuse for what is happening to you, or what you're going through, and not taking accountability, you're actually self sabotaging your own progress. Because if you sat down to think about, oh, why is this happening to me? How can I be better next time? How can I do better next time? Holding yourself accountable is the first step towards progress. And so you learn, you realize mistakes that you're sure you would never make again. From you understand that I did this, it's not always the world that is against you. It's not always because, you know, maybe because you're not tall enough, that's why people don't like you. Like, think about, why don't you love yourself? Why don't you appreciate yourself for who you are? So these stories you make up in your head will hinder your growth. It will hinder you from achieving certain goals. You will sit down there, think that, oh, what's the point of starting this? People will actually never like me if I do. And eventually you find yourself not achieving so many things, or failing, or you would even put it in your head before it even begins. Let's say you start, this won't work. After all, people think I'm not smart, for instance. And so you're not even allowing yourself to speak for people to know if you're smart or not. Why does it even matter what they think? Number three will be self medicating and avoidance. I use them interchangeably because self medicating, this is sort of like a negative aspect of self soothing, where people sort of soothe themselves through drugs, alcohol, or other unhealthy habits like overeating, binge eating. And they do this because they're trying to avoid seeking help through any other positive means, like through therapy, through any other way, you could seek help positively. So people would usually self medicate to avoid facing whatever the issue might really be. Is eventually not going to help you grow or improve yourself. And I mean, that's you self sabotaging your progress, yourself, your growth, your improvement, and you're not leaving yourself room to grow. It's a negative effect, it's an effect of self sabotage. Number four, perfectionism. Now, this is where I come in. Perfectionism is always setting very, very unrealistic expectations of yourself. It's one thing to set high, achievable standards for yourself, but the extreme is perfectionism. Being perfectionist is not particularly a great thing because perfection is a prison in itself. And a lot of people think about, oh, I'm a perfectionist, and it seems like something to be happy about. It's not necessarily a good thing, especially when it has its very negative effects in your life. So, personally, this has affected me in certain areas of my life. While it has been great in certain aspects and areas of my life, I have to admit, like my career, for instance, being a chef. never compromising standards, and always aiming for absolute perfection. The repercussion is I constantly never ask for help with work. Yes, imagine having to cook for 50 people and insisting I want to do it alone because I don't think anyone can do it as good as me. On the brighter side, when I'm creating food content, I try to make sure there's absolutely no flaw with my plating. But I will spend maybe hours trying to get it right. It's never good enough until I think it is. Even when a million people are like, oh, this is beautiful. Something is not right. That's the problem. I am deliberately looking for flaws even when there's not. And that's what perfectionism does. And that's where self criticism comes in when you feel like you have to be the one to tell yourself there's something wrong. No one can tell me there's something wrong with it. For you are constantly finding ways to fault yourself. So while I would say, oh, it's good to strive for perfection because eventually it makes you want to do things better, I think it's healthy to find a good balance, a healthy balance, knowing when this perfectionism is affecting your physical and mental health, like me standing for hours trying to get something right when I know it's right. So finding a healthy balance, knowing when it crosses the line and when it's affecting your mental health and your physical health is actually when to know when it's bad, negative, or positive perfection. I actually do better with this now because interestingly, I almost fell back on, the old habits, the old patterns when I started this podcast. So episode 1 never had a video release because the acoustic of my room was messed up. And even after I found a solution, I still felt like it wasn't quite right. Like I felt like, oh, I could do something better. And so I recorded over and over. I think I recorded that episode 5 times. I'm like, more than 5 times. Each time I kept finding a flaw. What was worse, how I knew I was falling back on old habits and old patterns was when I played these things for my sister to listen to. And she's like, well, there's nothing wrong with this. It's perfect. I can't hear anything. And I realized, oh, actually, this is me doing this again. What was worse after all that stress and all that trying to get it right and everything I had gone through trying to make it perfect? When I felt like it wasn't, I was contemplating giving up. I actually told myself one of those times I sort of broke down. I don't think this is for me. I think I'm going to fail at this. I think I'll have it wrong. I think I'll mess it up. I'm not getting it right. And I was so harsh on myself. I was beating myself up for something that I shouldn't have. And maybe it wasn't perfect. Maybe it wasn't perfect, but it's not meant to be. It's not meant to be perfect. It's meant to just be. It's a start. This is your first episode. If you listen to this 10 episodes from now, think about how you would feel. Think about, oh, I've come so far. Imagine I would have let go of the whole idea of starting a podcast over not having the best acoustic or just finding flaws. It wasn't even anything. And so even if it turned out to be messed up, even if it was exactly as I recorded it the first time, my point is, it would have been okay for me to give myself that grace to grow, not to want to always have it right and perfect. Because honestly, even when I think it's perfect, someone else is feeling like, oh, she could have done this better. I have to extend that grace to myself to be able to say, oh, I'm growing at this and it's okay. And it was my first time and that's fine. That effect would have affected me starting something really big, something I really love to start, something I really looked forward to start and I was so excited about starting just because I felt it was too flawed to put out. Even in the past, so many ways I can't even remember. And it's just beautiful that I'm at the point where I'm able to let myself know that this is not healthy. The best way to stop this is to practice self compassion. Self compassion is, first of all, being kinder to yourself. Be kinder to yourself, be understanding of yourself. Talk to yourself like you're a 5-year old. Imagine if, someone small, someone young felt so bad about, something they aren't getting right. What would you tell them? How would you encourage them? What ways would you be kind to them? What acts of kindness will you show them? So sort of like extend that grace to yourself, extend that kindness to yourself, extend that, just be kind to yourself. Understand that you're growing, you're going to improve, you're not going to stay stuck, you're going to eventually move. Where you are now is not where you're going to be. Also, be mindful, live in the moment. Don't obsess over the outcome. Allow that thing you're trying to experience to just move through you at that point in time. Don't overthink it. Don't think about what could happen or what could not happen. Also, have basic human empathy. Give yourself empathy. The most basic of them all. It doesn't even have to stretch. Like, you know that no one is perfect. Like, deep down in your heart, deep down in you, you know that nobody is perfect. Why would you put such unrealistic expectations on yourself? Treat yourself like a human being. Treat yourself like somebody. Basically, just treat yourself like somebody and understand that you're growing, you're going to move through this, it's going to be better. So these ways are ways of self-compassion that we will give to ourselves that will allow us the grace to grow, allow us the grace to make mistakes and be okay with it. So I have enjoyed having this beautiful conversation because it's one of the things that has worried me through this journey. Having something I'm actively doing that I feel like I'm putting out for people to see has put me in a position where I constantly have to turn the sword inward. Like, if you don't do this right, you know, you suck or something. I can see what I'm doing wrong and sort of fix it and improve it. Even if this is a journey, it's a never ending journey. It's constantly striving for improvement. And so I hope I've been able to, like, just my experiences and how I've dealt with it is a good inspiration for someone, a good inspiration for you to, like, not to be hard on yourself and to just allow yourself to grow with grace and ease into everything you're trying to do and just stop self sabotaging or self criticizing. Thank you all so much for tuning in again and again and again. I'm so grateful, you guys. Thank you. I am so grateful to all of you, each and every one of you that tune in to listen. If you've loved this episode, please leave a review for me, download the episode, share with your friends, take a screenshot, put it on your Instagram story. Also, you could head over to my Instagram and just comment under it which ways you self sabotage. And if this has been helpful for you, send to your friends, share this podcast, and let's all inspire each other to grow by being relatable. Thank you so much for tuning in again. Till next time, take care and be kind.